Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Osama Shah. The preliminary report into last month's Air India Dreamliner crash in Ahmedabad has been released by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. The findings confirm that both engines of the Boeing 787 shut down shortly after takeoff, with fuel cutoff switches transitioning from run to cutoff within seconds of each other. The cockpit audio also suggests neither pilot was aware of initiating this shutdown. One pilot, in fact, asked, "Why did you do it?" The other pilot responds by saying, "I did not." The aircraft was airborne for only 32 seconds and crashed less than a nautical mile from the runway, resulting in the deaths of at least 260 people. The report also notes that only one engine showed partial recovery after attempts were made to restart them.
A 15-page preliminary probe report of AI171 a whole month after that crash took place. Here, as we begin our coverage right now, is the 10 key findings. We've distilled this 15-page report into 10 key findings of what really is being said in this probe report. Number one, both engines shut down just seconds after liftoff. Number two, big focus on the pilot's conversation, because this is absolutely key. Okay, pilot denied initiating the fuel cutoff switches. Okay, let's go to number three. The voice recorder confirms that there was some kind of confusion or surprise in the cockpit where one pilot asked the other pilot, "Why did you cut off the fuel control?" And the other pilot replied that he did not. The ram air turbine deployed, indicating a total and catastrophic loss of power, probably due to the dual engine failure. The engines did relight, but it was too late because the aircraft was obviously too low, as has been proven in that video. The fuel was clean, the aircraft was fine and within limits. There doesn't seem to have been anything wrong with it, according to the report. No bird strike, no bad weather conditions as well. So that's been officially ruled out as well. Known fuel switch fault was never inspected. There was an advisory about it from the Federal Aviation Authority of the United States back in 2018. There is still no clarity on whether it was inspected, and if not, why not? We don't know this just yet, or whether it was a factor in this. But the fuel control switches appear to have been switched off and then switched on. But by the time the engines came back to life, the aircraft had already crashed.
The main focus of this preliminary report is on those switches, on the fuel cutoff switches, which transition from run to cutoff within seconds of each other. My colleague Vishnu Shom, he gets you the details as to what these fuel control switches actually are.
This is the cockpit of a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. It's a state-of-the-art cockpit. It's called a glass cockpit. It's got multifunction displays. The focus of the investigation, manifold, but in fact, it goes to this. The thrust quadrant, as it were. These levers control the power to the engines of the aircraft, the fuel flow to the engines as well. But it's these switches, the fuel cutoff switches, which we're going to be focusing on extensively. Let's give you another view of those fuel control switches, right? So this is the thrust quadrant, which I spoke about. And these are the fuel switches, which are all important. Let's give you a close-up of those fuel switches, and then let me describe what it is that we are talking about. The fuel control switches for the left engine and for the right engine were found cut off, in the cut-off position shortly after the aircraft took off. So the big question is, why did that take place? For starters, let me describe the design of this unit itself. Because the last thing that anybody wants to be doing just as a plane is taking off at a critical stage of its flight is to be switching off fuel. If you switch off fuel to the engines are starved of fuel and then they flame out. In other words, they stop operating. In a situation where you don't have altitude, there is not very much that you can do unless the engines restart. We'll talk about that in a moment. But look at this console itself. These are guardrails on both sides, here and here. This is to prevent any inadvertent movement of the hands of the pilots to actually hit this very sensitive set of components over here. And the switches that you see over here aren't like your normal light switch. not at all. To toggle them from one position, the on position, which is up, and the off or cut off position, which is down, you actually pull it, or you can say lift it and move it down. It locks into position, and therefore if you try and push it back up, it doesn't work. You have to very deliberately pull it and then move it into the other position. Under normal circumstances, you would not be touching these until after a flight is over, when it's safe to switch these off. There are certain circumstances when you might want to switch these off. For example, if there is an engine fire, but there was no engine fire on this occasion, which is why the question arises, why exactly, right? Why exactly were these switches switched off shortly after the flight? Let's also now bring you a few more details so that we can look more closely at all of this. Another angle on those fuel cutoff switches. Remember, they were cut off, in other words, from the run position that you see here, they were brought to the cutoff position. But let's go to the next set of images so that I can talk a little bit more about what took place over here. Shortly after the flight, the engines were found in the cutoff position. The fuel switches were found cut off in the cutoff position. The engines started losing their thrust. There was a mayday call which was announced by one of the pilots that announces a grave emergency. The air traffic controller did respond to that. There was a system called the ram air turbine, which is a small propeller which comes out of the fuselage of the aircraft, which did come out. It generates a basic amount of electrical power to ensure that the cockpit instrumentation works, and hydraulic fluids, which are essential for other functions of the aircraft, operate as well. The pilots at that stage had a very brief conversation with each other, one pilot asking the other if he'd switched off the fuel, and that pilot says that no, in fact, I didn't do that. Those weren't the exact words. I'll tell you what the exact words were in a little while from now. Those were the two pilots in the cockpit, and they did have a conversation trying to figure out why those fuel switches were in the off position. They then attempted to relight the switches. In other words, from the off position that I showed you, they moved these switches back to the on position. They lifted it, moved both up to the on position. One of the engines did relight, believe it or not. They actually did restart, but by then it was too late. There just wasn't enough altitude, and by the time that one engine started spooling up to generate enough thrust to enable the aircraft to pull out of that situation, it crashed. So that exactly is the scenario. The big question, what on earth resulted in these switches going down to the off position? Did one of the pilots actually do that? Was it a mechanical issue that resulted in this taking place? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Is there any known failure mode, mechanical or electronic, that could cause this action, that could have caused this action without pilot input?
Yes, way back in December 18, there was an advisory issued by Boeing through FAA that these gated switches, they get worn out over a period of time and they can move on without any force, So in that case, they had suggested that they should be checked, and in case they are worn out, they should be changed. So, but they recommended on condition change. On condition means should you see the worn out valve, change it. But what now in the hindsight, all of us are thinking that it would have been better had they made it a mandatory change at that point of time.
As far as that FAA advisory is concerned, that 2018 advisory is concerned, it flagged issues with the spring-loaded mechanism of the fuel control switch gates. Yet Air India did not act about it or retrofit the fleet in that particular sense, since the advisory was non-mandatory. Should the operators be held? How do you look at this situation at this particular time when such an incident has taken place?
Osama, there's a saying that everybody is wise in hindsight, So now today I can also say the way I am telling that it should have been made mandatory. But what was my reaction at that point of time when I was there, it could have been different,
Okay.
But I, being from Air Force, let me tell you one thing very clearly. On ejection seat and on engines, we do not take a chance. We do not take a chance. So going by that thing, since this pertained to engine controls and flame out in air or whatever, I think the better application of mines should have taken place. This is what I feel. This advisory was issued in the form of a bulletin. I would say because it comes to DGCA. The DGCA in the right earnest should have called the senior pilots operating the same variants of Boeing, and they should have told them, okay, this bulletin has come, please apply your mind and tell us what should we do. So automatically there would have been a better collaborative decision. We would have arrived at a better decision.
The preliminary report is currently out, and it has made some very key observations. This report has come out after 1 month, 1 month after this crash. It says that the fuel switches were shut off within seconds. While there have been hosts of reactions, but what we are getting at this moment is the way the foreign media has reported this entire probe and this entire report. In fact, the foreign media's coverage of the Air India crash report has sparked controversy with some of the outlets. They are accused of biased reporting. Some media outlets are attempting to shift the blame from Boeing to the Indian pilots. Some outlets, they have been cherry-picking details from the preliminary report to support their own narrative, while some have raised doubts about investigation transparency. While some outlets, they have placed responsibility on the cockpit crew, others have pointed out gaps in the investigation, noting that the preliminary report doesn't really say how the switch could have been flipped to the cutoff position. In fact, when you take a look at all the headlines that have been floating around since this report came out, the question that comes out of this is that is this about raising doubt, or is it whitewashing by the foreign media? Take a look at what Reuters have headline. It says that Air India jets fuel switches in focus as crash preliminary report nears. What does it imply? It basically implies that doubts are being cast on the mechanical integrity, and Boeing's fuel switch logic is now under global spotlight. What does the Wall Street Journal says? Their headline says that AI crash report confirms fuel was cut off before accident. The implication, no room for speculation, fuel cutoff is now a fact, is what it says. Also raises red flags on the design and the SOPs. Meanwhile, the New York Times, they have headlined that Mayday call in 2 minutes to engine 2's shutdown. 7 key questions have been raised. The implication of that headline, the global press isn't pulling punches. New York Times has accused the report of raising more questions than answers. The BBC says why cockpit audio deepens the mystery of Air India crash. The implication that even the voice recorder unsettles foreign analysis. These analysts doubt have been cast on crew coordination and aircraft logic. Meanwhile, the Sky News, it headlines saying that fuel to engines of Air India plane cut off moments after takeoff. The implication again, simple, chilling, factual, zeroing in on timing as well as intent. Well, 12th of July 2025, World Skydiving Day in India, and it was marked with a solemn remembrance. This year, the date carries an unbearable weight. It marks exactly 1 month since the tragic crash of Air India flight AI171, the darkest day in Indian aviation history. At the Narnaul airstrip, 2 hours away from the New Delhi airport, the skies became a canvas of tribute. Skydivers from India's only civilian skydiving drop zone, Sky High India, flew in the air carrying a white flag as a symbol of memory and mourning. The descent was a gesture of solidarity. We'll leave you with these pictures as we head into the break. Welcome back. Leela Sahu, who has over 1 lakh followers across platforms, has uploaded. She had uploaded a video in 2023 tagging the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Union Minister Nitin Gadkari, saying, and I quote, We made all 29 MPs win from Madhya Pradesh. Can we now get a road? Khaddi Khurd village has no paved roads, and women in late stages of pregnancy often have to be carried through muddy, uneven terrain to reach health centers. 2 days ago, Public Works Department Minister Rakesh Singh, he said, and I quote, "If someone puts a post on social media, will we reach with a dumper or a cement concrete plant? This is not possible," unquote.
नितिन गडकरी जी देख रहे हैं ना हमारे गांव के सड़क की हालत। आए देख लीजिए अपना पंचेन या में हमारे घर के ही हालत है। सांसद जी के कार्यालय में हम गए और उनसे ही यह विषय में बात की है कि हमारे यहाँ के रोड खराब है, आवेदन दी है तो ओसे कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ा। नवंबर माह ही कह रहे हैं कि ही बनवा दे, लेकिन अभी तक नहीं बनवाई ना। आश्वासन में आश्वासन मिलत रही है, वादा में वादा करत गई हैं और अभी तक 2 नवंबर आवे वाला है, लेकिन अभी तक रोड नहीं बना। जस के तस धरी है। अरे हमारा वीडियो बनाए से तू ना बना ये सड़क कहीं, लेकिन समस्या है ओके वजह से बनावा ना। 20 साल से ये सड़क ऐसे नहीं ऐसे रखी जैसा के तैसा धरी लागी और अब बनवा दे। हम खाली रोड के मांग कर रहे हैं।
मैंने कहा कि सीधी में लीला साहू तो एक सोशल मीडिया पे आ गया। ऐसे तो ना जाने कितने लोग हैं जिनकी डिमांड है। तो आपको क्या लगता है कि पीडब्ल्यूडी का बजट इतना होता है या किसी भी विभाग के पास इतना पैसा होता है कि किसी ने एक पोस्ट किसी जगह पर डाल दी और हम सड़क बनाने के लिए डंपर लेकर वहां पर पहुंच जाएंगे, सीमेंट कंक्रीट का प्लांट लेकर हम पहुंच जाएंगे? ये संभव नहीं है। इसकी एक प्रक्रिया है।
A shocking incident has come to light from Bengaluru, where a Kannada TV actress and anchor Manjula Shruti was stabbed by her husband over suspicions of infidelity. Shruti, known for her roles in serials like Amruta Dhari, was attacked on the 4th of July at Munneshwara layout under the jurisdiction of Hanumanthanagar police station. This matter surfaced only recently. In fact, 3 months ago, Shruti had separated from Amresh and moved in with her brother. There were also disputes over the house lease money, leading Shruti to file a police complaint at the police station. In a shocking turn of events outside FM College in Odisha's Balasore, a female student allegedly attempted suicide by setting herself on fire, citing harassment by a senior faculty member. The Education Department has now set up a panel to probe the case. The FM College principal, Dilip Ghosh, and the HOD, Sameer Sahu, they have been suspended by higher education.
देखिए, ये जो बहुत दुखद घटना है और हम इसके ऊपर तुरंत ही जो एक्यूज्ड हेड ऑफ द डिपार्टमेंट थे उनको हम सस्पेंड किए हैं और प्रिंसिपल को भी हम सस्पेंड किए हैं और हेड ऑफ द डिपार्टमेंट जिसके ऊपर पूरा एक्यूजिशन था उनको भी हिरासत में लिया गया है, उनको कोर्ट फॉरवर्ड किया गया है। और डिटेल इंक्वायरी के लिए हम एक डायरेक्टर हायर एजुकेशन के अध्यक्षता में हम एक टीम बनाए हैं। उसमें 2 सीनियर महिला ऑफिशियल्स हैं, वो लोग प्रोब करेंगे, वो लोग इन्वेस्टिगेशन करेंगे। उसी इन्वेस्टिगेशन के आधार पे अगर ये मामला पूरा सच आता है तो उनके ऊपर ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा कार्रवाई किया जाएगा।
जब मेरे को पता चला 5-7 दिन पहले, तो वो लड़की जाकर के मेरे को और उनका साथी जाकर सारा विषय बोले, तो मैं तुरंत प्रिंसिपल को फ़ोन किया, एसपी को भी फ़ोन किया। प्रिंसिपल ने बोला कि हमारा तदंत कमेटी चल रहा है, 5 दिन के अंतर्गत हम इसको ठीक कर देंगे, लेकिन वो नहीं किया। और आज मुझे सूचना मिला, तभी ये लड़की भी बोलती थी कि मैं सुसाइड अटेम्प्ट किया था। मैंने उनको बहुत समझाया, तुमको विजयी होना है, तुम क्यों सुसाइड करोगे? तुमने तो कोई गलती नहीं किया, क्यों सुसाइड करोगे? ऐसा मत करो, मन में हिम्मत रखो, तुमको न्याय मिलेगा और अपराधी को दंड मिलेगा।
अभियोग मध्य करिसंती, अभियोग भी मते बार बार करिसंती एटारे। मु जेतु वर्तमान मु अलगा कॉलेज रो पिला, तो मु तांको सहित कन्वर्सेशन जति के हेजे से मते माने सब कथा तो कहि नांती, जति के जणा अछि ए सब प्रॉब्लम जेतु अधिक तांकर हद से ज्यादा हे गला, सेति पई से एमिति निष्पत्ति नै चंती।
मैं कशिश हूँ और जिनके साथ ये हुआ है मैं उनकी काफ़ी अच्छी दोस्त रह चुकी हूँ। जब मैं नई नई कॉलेज में आई थी तो तब भी मैं ये सब सुनती आ रही थी कि उनके साथ कुछ हो रहा है, उनके साथ ये सब चीज़ें हो रही हैं, बट डिटेल्स वो कभी शेयर नहीं करते थे। कुछ दिनों पहले भी हम कंप्लेन लेके आए थे प्रिंसिपल के पास, ही टॉक्ड अबाउट इट, बट कोई सल्यूशन मिला नहीं था इस चीज़ का जो भी हुआ। तब भी उन्होंने कहा था कि वो सुसाइड अटेम्प्ट की थी, करना चाहती थी, बट वो नहीं की थी क्योंकि उन्हें होप था कि प्रिंसिपल कुछ करेंगे। बट एट द एंड ऑफ द डे जब कुछ नहीं हुआ तो मजबूरी में उन्होंने आज ऐसा कदम उठाया।
जो उनके प्राइम एक्यूज हैं, प्राइमा फेसी जो अभी रिवील कर रहा है, उन टीचर को अरेस्ट करके वो फॉरवर्ड किया गया है। उसके अलावा हमारे स्पेशल टीम अलग अलग डिफरेंट चीज़ों को डिजिटल एविडेंस कलेक्शन हो, फॉरेंसिक्स इन्वेस्टिगेशन हो, इंटरनल कंप्लेंट कमेटी की जो भी उसकी विविधाएं हैं उसको उसके अंदर अच्छे से उसको तर्जुमा करना हो, हर एंगल में हम लोग अलग अलग टीम के द्वारा इसको इन्वेस्टिगेट कर रहे हैं।
A woman studying at IIM Kolkata was allegedly raped by a student inside a hostel of the business school, as per the police. The accused has been arrested on the basis of an FIR lodged by this woman, and he's in police custody for a week. The alleged incident took place inside the boys' hostel of the IIM Kolkata, but the woman's father has denied any rape claims. He said that around 9:34 p.m. at night, he received the call that his daughter had fallen off a car and had been grievously injured. He then goes on to ask his daughter if she was raped, to which she says no. Meanwhile, the accused lawyer has claimed that it's false play. Lawyer said that the time of the offence and the time of lodging the complaint by the police is the same.
হ্যাঁ, কথা বলেছি। ও বললো না, আমার কেউ টর্চারও করেনি আর আমার সঙ্গে কেউ খারাপ ব্যবহার কিছু করেনি। আমরা কি জানি, আমার মেয়েকে ফিরে পেয়েছি, আমার মেয়ে নরমাল।
Today he was produced before this court. We prayed for police custody. The accused person prayed for bail. They stated that the incident was consensual. We stated no, it was not a fact, because the accused gave some food to him. She became unconscious. Thereafter, she was physically abused. And what I stated is that he was fit. He had matching merit with mismatching mental health.
Brother Shardad, the lawyer of the accused in the alleged rape at the IIM campus, speaking to NDTV. Sir, if you could just summarize briefly inside what your arguments were on behalf of your client who is the accused in this particular case of rape.
No, actually, I am not going into the merits of the case now, because I don't want to disclose our defense. But apparently, we have stated before the court that one complaint has received by the Haridapur police station on last 2 night.
Yes.
The time was 20:35.
Yeah.
But in the FIR, it is found from the FIR and the forwarding report, the incident was happened in the IIM Joka, timing 11:45 to 8:35. How it is possible? Because Haridapur police station to IIM Joka is far away, maximum 4.5 kilometers. And now the incident alleged in the FIR that the lady victim was entered into the IIM Joka Lakeview hostel without registering her name in anywhere. Everyone knows that the IIM Joka is a so restricted and prohibited place. So all that things, after perusal of all these things, learned court was pleased to allow only police custody till 19/7/2025.
The External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will travel to China for the first time since the 2020 LAC military standoff. He'll attend a key SCO meeting in Tianjin and hold bilateral talks. The visit signals renewed diplomatic engagement amid lingering tensions. India, remember, is pushing for a structured roadmap to restore trust. That's all we have for you. Keep watching NDTV for more news and updates.